In the previous video, we had our AWS Amplify Gen 2 NextJS app up and running. An admin user could sign in and create, update, and delete products, and also add one image to each product. So we're going to enhance that a little bit. We will allow the admin to add multiple images, enter alt text for each image to make the image accessible, and lastly, allow one of the images to be marked as the main image, and meaning that that image will be the one that's shown on the home page. Let's start by taking a look at the data schema. Let's see, here are some things to note. I renamed image to product image to make it a little bit clearer what's going on. And there'll probably be other kinds of images, so this just makes it especially clear. Another thing is you'll see that some fields have been changed, and this used to be image, now it's images, and it has this relationship with product image. Means has many, means that each product can have multiple images. And how is it related? It's related to this model and via this field. So if you look at product image, we see now that it has this product ID field that is of type ID, and it also has this product field which indicates that each product image model belongs to this model via this field. So it's pretty simple and intuitive, I think. I also renamed this. I renamed this field. It used to be just key. I just made it S3 key to make it a little bit clearer what it is. As I was going along coding, I realized, boy, the word key comes up in a lot of contexts, and it becomes very ambiguous what kind of key you're talking about when you're actually in the code. And here's another field I added to the product model, main image S3 key. So this is intended to be a value that matches the key, S3 key from a product image. That seems obvious. I also specified a secondary index, and that secondary index allows us to, for instance, get a list of product images given a certain product ID. So we'll use that. Everything else is the same, I believe. Authorization, unauthenticated and authenticated users are allowed to read all images, and admins are allowed to do everything. So you might remember that previously we were using the generated so-called connected forms from Amplify. These are automatically, well, not automatically, but they're generated from the data schema, and we had used Amplify's connected forms and customized them a little bit to be able to upload an image. So what would happen now that we have this product image schema where there's a one-to-many relationship? Can the connected forms do anything with that, or what's going to happen? So let's see what happens. I think it's like this. After, let's try this. Okay, it's generating them. So if we look in that directory, we see that this is kind of reasonable, or what we would expect. If we look at the, we have two, that is, we have two different models, product and product image, and we have create and update kinds of forms for each. So let's take a look at product create. See, it's talking about the four of the fields, but not the images field that is the new one. So my prediction is that this generated form doesn't have anything to do with that. And I think it's understandable, because if you imagine one-to-many relationships and many-to-many relationships and the complexity that entails, I don't think this kind of automated form generation can do anything reasonable with that. So the upshot of that is that now I'm going to create my own forms. And I'll use some of the components that come free with Amplify, but I'll create the forms from scratch. So before we take a look at the code, let's look at what the current implementation looks like. So notice that we're looking at the deployed version. I've already have a product in here. If we click add product, we can add something new, kind of product, kitty treat product. And we can add some images. You can add up to, well, actually, I want to implement a limit, but right now I haven't done it. But basically, it's 5. Let's say we add 3 images. And I can add some alt text. So I'll say detailed image of a per pop, bonkers package front, and kitty licking a per pop. Then we can select one of the images as the main image, and can create the product. Now take a look at the home page, and there's our product, and we can go in there and add it, or edit, not add it. And let's say we wanted to change the main image. I know the UI is a little bit ungainly, but that's okay. We're just screwing around, learning and screwing around. Save that. So that change was persisted. So that's the new functionality, basically. Let's start looking at some code. This is the code from the last video, and this is the page, the main page, and I'm just calling the list function from the product model, and I'm not specifying anything other than the auth mode. Now looking at the new code, you can see I'm specifying a selection set, and I'm putting in the fields from the product model that I want, including the images.star, in order to get the actual images from the related model, the product image model. So let's take a look at the product item component. So we are now talking about a S3 key instead of a key. We have an alt text. I'm not sure if we had alt before. and we have the product ID that is associated with product, and so we're just specifying the types. You find some redundancy, there's some repetition in the code at this point. That's okay. We'll clean it up. Just fooling around. Here in this component, we check whether there are any images. If there are some images, then we try to get the main image that was selected if there was one, and if there was none selected, then we default to the first image in the array of images. And if we don't have an alt text, then we use the product name. Basically, that's it. And previously I wasn't showing a product price, but now we are. So I think that's all the changes in product item. Now let's look at the product create and product update pages. And one of the upcoming refactors will be to use the same form for both, but right now you'll see that there's a lot of repetition in the code, and my thought about that is that I'm not sure how best to do these videos, but I believe that people can learn a lot just from open-ended questions and open-ended challenges. And one of the challenges I would put out is to refactor these pages, these components. That's a good way to learn. So that's I think it is anyway. So if you want to, I never know if anyone will watch these videos, and I know that people will be at different levels of expertise. So I think a good way to learn is to work with existing code that maybe is not optimal, and just try to learn from it, but make it better. So anyway, as I said previously, I'm not using the generated form anymore, so we're creating our own form, and I'm using React Hook Form, the React Hook Form library. I've created this image uploader component that we'll look at in a second. You can see that we are calling use form hook from React Hook Form. We are updating the main image key if, for instance, the user has selected an image as the main image, and then that image is removed, then naturally it's no longer a valid main image key or main image selection, so we need to keep that up to date. Let's scroll down and look actually at the form itself. With React Hook Form, we can still use these components from the Amplify React UI library. So I'm still taking advantage of things that we get for free from Amplify, using this register function to register the field with React Hook Form and providing some validation. These components from the Amplify library has an error message properties, so that or attributes, so that we can indicate error messages or error states if they exist. In the price field, we make sure we check to see if that the price is something that looks like a price. And we have a select field for selecting our main image. when we upload, when we submit, we do the product creation and the product image creation separately. We need the product ID from the create method in order to be able to provide the product ID that forms the relationship, the one-to-many relationship. One of the things I'll be looking at in future are custom mutations to be able to do some things all at once. Notice that we're just looping through the images and doing separate creates for each image, but maybe we can do that by batch. And a further enhancement down the road would be to deal with trying to not have duplicate images stored in S3. So we'll look at that too, but that's down the road. Of course, project edit is similar to product create. One of the main differences is first we have to fetch the product to populate the form. So we specify the selection set to get these properties plus the images. We set the images state variable. And because the data to populate the form wasn't available when the component loaded, we call the reset function from React hook form and give it the data that it needs to populate the form. We have a use effect so that when the images array changes, we can reset the main image. This could be improved, but it's okay for right now. Let's look at the form itself. Yeah, the form itself is going to be basically just like create product. Yep. When the form is submitted, I get the images that were originally associated with the product, and then just update them to set their product ID property to null. This might not be the best way to do things. In fact, I'm almost sure it isn't. But as I said, I'm still working through the documentation and figuring out the way to do mutations and custom mutations and functions in Amplify Generation 2. So we'll get there. But in any case, rather than try to figure out which image has been changed and which hasn't, etc., I just went ahead and nullified the product ID for the previous images and product images, and then create new ones. And that is that. Now it's time, I think, to take a look at the image uploader. Looking now at image uploader, it looks like this in the app. This bit right here. So it's showing using the StorageImage component and StorageManager component down here. You you can see that there's some redundant functionality. I've got a remove button here and remove buttons here. And that's mainly because I was still experimenting with StorageManager and haven't figured out whether it's better to customize StorageManager or make something of my own or what. You can override parts of the StorageManager, so that might be an option too. But let me just show that, like, this is DD9. Say we can click this and it goes away. And when we originally load this edit form, we get this populated here. It doesn't have proper thumbnails, but I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to be, or if it's an error. Looking back at the code, we're passing down the setImages function and images array from the parent, setting a max images of 5, but not really enforcing that yet. And we have this local state there, or the state that's local to this component for holding the alt values to kind of limit the number of renders that happen. And we use a debounce function too for that text field. We have a handle remove image. We render images using the storage image and the text field for the alt value. I've hard-coded 5 columns for the grid at this point, so it's still a work in progress. You see there's a components property that you that's available in StorageManager, and you can override certain parts of StorageManager, like file list, pass it a function, and the function gets these things, these values. So that's something that you might want to play with. Here on upload success, I'm just figuring that if someone uploads the same image, that is an image with that has the same S3 key, just replace it. Don't try to allow the same image with the same file name. Maybe there's a use case for that, but I can't think of it. You can see here, in this default files property, we're just taking any image and that has filtering out the ones that don't have a S3 key, and giving default files a list of objects that have a key property and an S3 key. I'm not sure I have a good finish for this episode. Did want to point out that in the Amplify console, you can, here I'm in the overview for this particular app. You can click on monitoring. There are some logs there, logs to CloudWatch logs stream. You can open up, and this can be helpful for debugging some things. If you heard that, that was my cat Agatha coming in. She doesn't like it if I stand here working too long without sitting on the couch and letting her be on my lap. Anyway, so you can see that when I'm logging out some stuff, it's appearing here. So this potentially is helpful helpful for debugging and worth poking around in here. This is the hosted app with the latest changes. So next time, I'm not sure what I'll work on next time, but I hope it will be something to do with custom mutations. That's what I would like to work on. So thank you for watching, and please leave any comments, questions in the area below the video.